Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're opening up Genesis chapter 15. This passage, well, it takes us to a really foundational moment, looking at some radical promises, human doubt, and a ceremony you won't soon forget.
Absolutely. It's, a crucial conversation between God and Abram. It gets right into Abram's immediate concerns, but also casts this vision, stretching out centuries. We're going to try and unpack the significance here.
Okay, let's dive in then. So the chapter kicks off with God appearing to Abram in a vision and offering this powerful assurance right away. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. That's an incredibly strong opening.
It really is a huge promise. But Abram's response is um, remarkably candid, isn't it? Despite that assurance, his biggest worry comes right out.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back.
No. He says, "O sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless?" And he points out his heir is likely Eliezer of Damascus, his servant. He even hammers it home. You have given me no children.
Right. He's basically saying, that's great, but what about the heir you promised?
Exactly. He's focused on that core issue. And God's response is just as direct, tackling that specific doubt.
What does God say?
He says, "This man will not be your heir, but a son coming from your own body will be your heir." Crystal clear. No ambiguity there.
Okay. And then comes that famous scene, right?
Right. This is where it gets really fascinating. God takes Abram outside. You picture this vast, dark desert sky. And he says, "Look up at the heavens and count the stars, if indeed you can count them."
Wow.
And then the promise, "So shall your offspring be." It's
Yeah.
just this breathtaking leap from, worrying about one son to a multitude you can't even number.
That's an incredible scaling up of the vision. And the text makes a point of Abram's reaction.
It does. It says, Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness.
Oh,
This is, well, it's pivotal
why so pivotal?
because it's not about Abram doing something first. It's his belief, his trust in God's promise that leads to him being considered righteous in God's eyes. That's a core concept right there.
I see. Faith precedes the outcome.
Precisely. And God then kind of grounds this future promise by reminding Abram of past faithfulness. "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land."
Okay, so connecting past actions to future promises. But Abram, he still wants a bit more assurance, doesn't he? Especially about the land.
He does. He asks, "O sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? How is this actually going to happen?" He needs some kind of confirmation.
And that leads to this really unusual ceremony.
Yeah, a very ancient, very solemn ritual for making a covenant. God tells Abram to bring specific animals, a heifer, a goat, and a ram, all 3 years old, plus a dove and a young pigeon.
3 years old specifically.
Seems significant, yeah.
Hmm.
Perhaps representing maturity or value. Abram prepares them, cutting the larger animals in two, arranging the halves opposite each other. But interestingly, he doesn't cut the birds.
Okay. And he's actively involved while waiting.
The text mentions him driving away birds of prey from the carcasses. He's guarding this sacred space, invested in what's happening.
And then the atmosphere shifts.
It really does. As the sun sets, Abram falls into this deep sleep. And it's described as a thick and dreadful darkness coming over him. It sounds quite intense.
And in that state, he receives a prophecy.
Yes,
Yeah.
a significant one. It's a mix, really. There's hard truth. His descendants will be strangers, enslaved, mistreated for 400 years in a foreign land.
Wow, that's heavy. Not exactly sugar-coated.
Not at all. But the promise holds. God says he will punish the nation that enslaves them, and Abram's descendants will eventually come out with great possessions. And Abram himself, he'll live a long life and die peacefully.
So hardship is foretold, but so is deliverance and Abram's own peaceful end.
Exactly. And there's even a specific time frame given for their return in the fourth generation.
Yeah.
And a reason for the delay is mentioned too.
Oh, what's that?
It says, "For the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure." It implies God's justice includes timing related to the current inhabitants of the land as well.
I see. Okay, so there's a lot packed into that prophecy.
Definitely. And then after sunset, in the deep darkness, comes the climax of the ritual.
The fire pot and torch?
Yeah, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. Now, in ancient covenants like this, both parties would often walk between the pieces. It was like saying, if I break this agreement, may I be cut in two like these animals.
But here,
But here, only God, represented by the fire and light, passes through that path. Abram doesn't walk it.
so God is taking the full weight of the oath onto himself.
That's how it's generally understood, yes. It highlights the unilateral nature of this promise. God is binding himself unconditionally. And right then, the text says the covenant is formally made. God gives the land to Abram's descendants, specifying the boundaries from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates.
And it even lists the peoples living there at the time.
It does. 10 groups: Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephates, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. It's very specific.
So you have these incredibly concrete promises about countless descendants, about a specific vast territory, all sealed through this really visceral ancient ritual where God himself bears the responsibility.
Absolutely. It's this powerful mix of God's unwavering assurance, Abram's honest doubt, and then this dramatic visual contract that underscores the sheer weight of God's commitment.
It really is fascinating. A blend of divine power, human questioning, a dramatic visual contract, and a promise that acknowledges both immense blessing and, well, foreseen hardship. It makes you think. For you listening, what does it mean when belief itself is counted as right, even when the path ahead looks difficult and you don't have all the hows figured out?